I have a confession to make. Tap, tap, tap. I've never seen the 2005 Pride and Prejudice movie. I think the 1995 Pride and Prejudice is one of the best things ever committed to film. I mean, to all my haters, peace and love. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm super excited to be here. I'm super excited to be doing this video today. I've had this idea floating around for a long time because I have a confession to make, and I thought, what better way to remedy this confession than to not only admit it on the internet, but also solve it on the internet. So today, this is the confession. I have never seen the movie Pride and Prejudice, which is a bit of a scandal. My favorite book of all time is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is my copy here. I was given this in the year 2007 when I was about 10 years old, or just about 10. And yes, I've read this book a ton of times. This is probably the book I've reread the most. And yeah, I just love everything about this book. The movie, which came out in 2005, I'm not even gonna look it up. I'm just gonna shot in the dark it and hope that I got that right. However, I do love the 1995 version. This is my DVD copy of the 1995 version. I love this one. I've seen this. I watch this probably at least like once or twice a year. I watch this all the time. I love this. So yeah, I grew up on this version. I've always watched this version, and I've never seen the movie version. But I know there's a lot of people out there who love the movie version, and yeah, I just never got around to it. So I thought today we would talk about it. You may be thinking, well, Claire, right off the bat, this is going to be a disaster because you've already admitted to thinking that this is great. But I'm a student of history. I'm a student of English. I love film and TV, so I'm going to go at this in the most unbiased way possible. I really want this to be about comparing the movie to the book, first and foremost. I think it's unfair to compare the movie to this solely because this is 6 episodes, miniseries. It was done in a different time. It was done by a different production company, different actors, different everything. And I've broken it down. This is what I'm looking for. I got 3 criteria. So the first criteria, obviously, I've just talked about it a little bit, is how accurate the movie is to the events of the book. Obviously, it's not going to be spot on, but I kind of want to keep, I'm hoping for some of the major plot points to be depicted. You know, how the Elizabeth Darcy thing all folds out, how the Jane Bingley thing kind of folds out. Yeah, I love all the events in the novel. But yeah, that's my first criteria. How well the movie holds up to the book. Perfect. Second, how well the characters are depicted. Obviously, beyond even the main characters of Elizabeth and Darcy, every character in Pride and Prejudice is kind of iconic. I mean, Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, the Lucases, all these people have so much going on, and I'm hoping that the actors that are acting, as well as the screenplay and the direction, really depicts and does justice to the characters that Austen creates. Obviously, more importance will be paid to how well the main actor and actress depict the forever iconic Elizabeth and Darcy. So I will be talking a little bit about how much I like the portrayals of the characters in this and how that stacks up to the movie. But again, I'm going to try and be unbiased here and just take the movie for what it is. Third is the vibes. How well is this how does this movie feel? How does it portray the overall themes and atmosphere of the novel? This one, I'm feeling pretty confident. I've seen, obviously, it's hard to avoid some of the screen caps, some of the moments in this movie. So I'm familiar with how it looks. And so I'm excited to see that. But with all that in mind, with my 3 criteria in mind, I am excited to watch the movie. So we're going to hop on over to my movie viewing station and jump into it. So. Okay, hey everyone, welcome back. It's a new day. I watched the whole movie yesterday, as you saw. We're gonna get into it. Here was my process. I watched the movie yesterday, and I took a bunch of notes. Took all these notes, and I highlighted it based on what I thought was a general like or dislike, something that I feel like was objective, and then something that was a little bit more subjective. So some of these notes were just my personal feelings, how I compared it to the 95 version, that kind of stuff. So once again, I've broken down what I thought into the 3 criteria I mentioned before, and we're going to jump into it. So overall, I'm sure you're kind of wondering what my thesis is for this video. This movie is pretty great. I think it really captures well the essence of Pride and Prejudice, the overall storyline, the feel of the book. This is a surprise to probably no one. Vibes are great, movie looks great, sounds great. But for me personally, there's a couple things in this that make the movie not work for me on a personal level. But yeah, I think it's a great movie. I just don't think it's a movie for me. So let's jump into it. First of all, vibes. Do I need to talk about it? The natural setting is fabulous. I mean, the cliffs, the forests, the lushness, the locations, really, really lovely. By extension of that, for the most part, the actual the buildings that are used are really lovely. Pemberley, Netherfield, all that kind of stuff is really lovely as well. Even the Bennett's place is really great. So setting, fabulous. Next, I loved the score. Obviously for me, the 95 version, the score is really nostalgic. I just get excited when I hear it, but I can't compare. I mean, this is like a really beautiful score, and I love this a lot, and I think it does a lot to propel the story forward. So the score was fabulous. And finally, in our vibe section, I mean, the way that this movie, the colors and the lighting and all that kind of stuff is really lovely. And I think it just adds so much to the moodiness and the thematic stuff that they wanted to have going on. So yeah, overall, the movie does look really, really great. I mean, the one thing I will ding it for, and this is a personal thing, I understand that this isn't going to bother everyone, but just as somebody who loves the Regency era, I mean, I have my degree in history, the costumes did not do it for me. When I watch a period piece, I really want to watch a period piece. Like, I want it to be in the period. I don't want to watch like a 2005 play of Pride and Prejudice, you know what I mean? Like, I want it to look like the Regency era, and I think this movie was just a little bit concerned more with making sure that the people looked attractive to a modern audience versus being historically accurate. And that's kind of why part of the reason why I love the 95 version is like they were not afraid to just make everything look so period correct, almost to the point where it's like a little alien to us as modern viewers, which I love. Like, I want to be in the time. I don't want to be in a modern time if I'm watching a period piece. That's a personal thing. That's just a personal choice. That's what I look for in my period dramas. I love that attention to detail and the accuracy. Okay, next up, characterization. How the characters are in the movie. I'll touch a little bit on the 95 version, but I'm mostly going to compare them to the book characters. Overall, I think everyone was really well cast, really well played. Gives you a great essence of who the characters are. Yeah, super fun. Personally, and this lends to the length of it, the 95 version I just love. I think that the characters in that are so well done. And I mean, a good example of this, if you're not quite sure what I mean, because I really do like the 2005 version, and the actors in that all do a really great job. But a good example of this is Mr. Collins. In both adaptations, the portrayal is so great, but so different, which I can't quite pinpoint, but yeah, I like both interpretations. They're both creepy and weird, but in a way that's, in the 95 version, he's a little bit more outgoing, a little bit more assertive in terms of he's just making a fool of himself, literally on the dance floor, which is really funny. In the 2005 one, he's much more like kind of, there's this weird introverted quality to him, where he's a little quieter and still just as creepy. But yeah, of the main four, you know, we have, or my main four, when I think about Pride and Prejudice, I obviously think of Elizabeth and Darcy, and then Bingley and Jane are kind of the foil to that relationship over the whole thing. Of those main four, they were all good. I think the real standouts are obviously Matthew Macfadyen as Mr. Darcy. I think he does a really great job, just in terms of bringing that classic awkwardness in a way which is frustrating but also understandable and knowable. And then Rosamund Pike as Jane. I think she's really lovely, fabulous. The actor who plays Bingley and Keira Knightley as Elizabeth are both good, but something about it was just, there was a little bit of disconnect for me, and I just didn't connect with them as much in this version. They were still good, and they still brought kind of the things you want. They just didn't do it for me, personally. On the flip side, I understand why they combined the Bingley sisters, but I love those characters. They're so scheming, and it works so well as a pair that I was sad that we didn't get to see both of them together. But I think combining them makes sense, and overall the character was okay. I just love the banter between the two, and would have liked to seen that. And also, I would have loved more Wickham. Again, I understand that the movie's on a time constraint, but I really would have thought that it would have benefited to have more Wickham, just so that you understand exactly what his gig is, like what he's doing, and how he got to be so charming for Elizabeth. And then that would have like made the flip side even more intense. Some other small moments I wanted to share with you that I absolutely love or didn't love about this adaptation. The good, I loved the practice proposal scene. I thought that was so cute. I was getting worried that they weren't going to build up the Darcy-Bingley relationship too much, because even though it's an important part of the novel and like the way the novel is set up, it's still not like a central thing that you need to have and you need to show. So yeah, really loved that. I think it really showed their kind of friendship. I loved the ballroom scene where Elizabeth is dancing and she's having two simultaneous conversations with Jane and with Mr. Collins. I thought that was so funny. The comedy that I love in Austen, which is just situational, and bringing out the awkwardness in ritual and in courting. So I thought that was really funny. And then finally, as somebody who loves the 95 version, there was a little Sir William Lucas capital thrown in there. He says it one time, which if you've seen the 95 version, you know that that's a pretty central part of his character. Capital. So I was excited to see that. Okay, finally. So the last criteria I haven't touched on was the first one I brought up actually earlier in the video, which is faithfulness to the plot. And I think I can safely say that this critique is not going to just be a personal sentiment, but maybe a more universal one. I think the biggest thing that this movie suffers from is just being a movie. There's so much going on in the novel that is lost when you're doing a 2-hour adaptation. And this is not just exclusive to Pride and Prejudice. This happens in a lot of adaptations. It's hard to condense a bit like a novel into a movie. And that really came across here, especially as someone who knows the book really well and loves all the little bits of the book. This just felt like it was like crazy. Like every scene was so quick and you didn't have time to really develop stuff or like develop conversations. And I just felt like things were moving really, really quickly. That's just what I thought. It just was apparent to me that this suffered from being only 2 hours long. Okay, some of my personal gripes, why this doesn't really make it for me. I already mentioned one, which was the costuming, which bugged me a little bit. The next one was the way that they chose to portray the poverty of the Bennets. That was like a creative choice for the movie. It was fine. I just didn't love that like the Bennett's house was grimy and there was like pigs walking around. I was just like, I feel like there's subtler ways that you could have distinguished between like the wealth gap between the characters. And I feel like this was not it. Yeah, so for me, the last thing is, for me personally, some of the scenes were written in a way which I found unfaithful to the book. And the two big ones were the meeting at Pemberley, when she goes with the gardeners, and the second proposal, which by proxy, like also the first proposal. So let's jump into it. The meeting at Pemberley. I think what's so fabulous about the meeting at Pemberley is we go on this journey in the middle part of the book after the first proposal and up into the meeting at Pemberley, where we're journeying with Elizabeth about her reconciling with like the things that she did maybe wrong. And I think that's a really great journey because we're only purposefully seeing one side of that, and that's just Elizabeth. We're just seeing how Elizabeth's opinions are changing. And I think what's so smart about that is you have her kind of fretting over like, oh shoot, I've like really messed this up and now I'm never going to see him again. And he's just going to think I was like a total wreck and all this crazy stuff. And then what's great about that is that you meet him again at Pemberley and he's making changes. He's made changes. And I think that's so great because there's this period where we don't see Darcy at all and we're only seeing Elizabeth's development, and then we reunite them again and we see that Darcy's actually been doing stuff behind the scenes this whole time, and that works really, really well. And I just felt that this scene was like really played up the romance of it, which is fine. I just felt like we didn't get that kind of development as much. And part of that also comes earlier at the Netherfield ball when Charlotte is like, you should be watching out for Jane because Bingley's going to think she doesn't like him. And then you're going to be in trouble. And Elizabeth's like, no, it's fine. I think what's great about the letter that he gives her later is that that's when she learns. Like that's when she gets like, oh shoot, I might have been thinking the wrong way this whole time. And to have Charlotte kind of like bring that up earlier just felt like it cheapens her learning it later on. So yeah, the meeting at Pemberley and that kind of development I didn't love as much. In the movie, she's just like, oh, he's a good person the whole time, like all the way through. Or like, I don't even know, like I just didn't, and this is totally subjective. I understand that I am pulling my own personal opinions into this, but the other scene that didn't work for me was the second proposal, and by proxy the first proposal. So what I didn't love about the second proposal was the way that Darcy's kind of like proposal was actually written. A lot of people have talked about this, the word choice and the way that proposal is written and why it's so great and why it is so lasting in terms of he just that famous line of like, if your feelings are what they were last April, tell me so at once and I'll leave you alone. Like if you don't like me, I understand and I will peace out. And I think that that's such an important part of that, is to show Darcy's growth in terms of like, he understands that he's not going to get everything he's ever wanted, and he's saying like, I've accepted that, and if you don't like me, I respect that and I'm going to move on. And I think that's what's so brilliant and so kind of revolutionary and continually fresh about this book is the way that Darcy is written in that moment of like, yeah, I will leave you alone if you don't like that, and I respect that. This one, it felt a little bit more like imposing in terms of like he's like, if your feelings are what they were like last April, yada yada yada. Then he's like, but then he continues, he keeps speaking, and I'm like, no, stop talking. Like, end it there. Have Elizabeth respond and end it there. And he just goes on and says like, you know, the I love you thing, and fine. Like, this movie really focuses on the romance, which I get. This is just a personal thing. Again, it's a personal preference. But yeah, just to have him continue speaking after that, it diminishes what was so great about that proposal in the first place, which is giving Elizabeth the autonomy to say, no, I'm not interested. This just felt like he was bringing more of his feelings into it than I would have liked. The fact that Darcy is like, you can make this decision, and I'm not going to impose too much of my thoughts onto you and like pressure you into making this decision because I have all these deep feelings about you. I think is what's so great in this one, to have him continue after saying like, whatever your feelings are, I'll leave you alone. It just feels like, okay, but I know what you want me to say, and that's just, I didn't love that. So yeah, props though when he comes in the first time, during the first proposal, or just before the first proposal when she's at the Collins, and he's like twisting his hands in the gloves. That was so funny, and I was like, that's what I want the whole time. That's so great. Like, just that totally awkward shot in the dark kind of thing, and then he just pieces out and he's like, I'm gonna go now. It's so funny. Yeah, that was really fabulous. Great. Well, those are my long, rambling thoughts about this movie. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. I thought that it did a lot with what it had, and it really gives you what this book is about. This is not a bad movie. I would encourage you to watch it. I think, especially if you're unfamiliar with Pride and Prejudice, if you've never seen the movie or read the book, I would definitely recommend you watch this movie. It gives you a really great play-by-play. It gives you the good, like, thematic core of the novel. For me personally, I still think that the 95 version is really where it's at. It's the pinnacle for me. I just think that the extra time allows them to really breathe and explore and have lots of fun moments. It also, I mean, it looks really great. It's played really, really well. The script and the acting is fabulous. The locations are great in that too. It's a little bit on a smaller scale, but yeah, I would encourage you to seek that one out as well. If you're in Canada, like I am, it is on Amazon Prime, but it's on like one of those extra channels, so whatever. I don't know where else it is, but I would challenge you to find it and watch it, especially if you love Pride and Prejudice. So yeah, that's everything I have. Let me know what you think about this video, or about Pride and Prejudice, or about any of the adaptions. I've never seen the earlier ones. I think there was one in the 70s, and then there was one in the 40s with Olivier. I haven't seen those ones. Maybe I'll watch them. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But yeah, watch this movie. Let me know what you think. Comment below. If you like this video, give it a like. And if you like what I'm doing, subscribe. I will see you on the flip side. Peace out, guys. Bye.